Welcome back to Performance on Wheels. Today we are doing the second mod for the Fiat Abarth. Let's go do a couple of tests before we install the next mod. First, check out what it is. It is now time for the second mod in the Abarth series. First we did the race chip. Go ahead and check out that video if you haven't. Now it is time for the second mod. Check this out. Eibach lowering springs. Eibach, hit us up. Come on now. This is going to be our second video about you guys. We did one on the Camry. We got about 20,000 views. Now we're about to do one on the Fiat. Hit us up, Eibach. Let's check these out. Like I said, Eibach, hit us up. We have an F-type that we want to lower. Look at those. Check that out. So we are going to be moving 1.3 inches lower in the front and 1.5 inches lower in the back. According to Eibach's website, they claim that these springs will give my Fiat race car-like handling, a lower center of gravity, help me stop quicker, corner faster, get better miles per gallon, and they have a 1,000,000-mile warranty. Although I did find this quite interesting when I was reading through the instructions the other day. That 1,000,000-mile warranty is 100% voided if they are not installed by a professional mechanic. So does that mean, since I am technically a ASE certified tech, does that mean I count if I don't do it through a shop? The Fiat 500 Abarth is an awesome autocross car, and many people have said so. The issue with it is, if you watch,
it looks like a monster truck in the back.
It does look like a monster truck in the back, and the reason for that is, if you watch our first review, this is supposed to be a 3+1, so there's supposed to be 2 more people behind me. And if there were 2 more people behind me, the car would probably be bottomed out right now.
Need a little cushion back there.
Exactly. So
we don't want any cushion back there.
We don't want any cushion back there. We need a rear seat delete, meaning that this car can get quite a bit stiffer and quite a bit lower in back, which is exactly why I got these Eibachs. I'm hoping that this stiffens up the back, which reduces some of the body roll quite a bit and also helps with the stance that the vehicle currently has. To test out if the Eibachs are going to do anything, I have a few ideas. We're going to go ahead and try to go a roundabout at as fast as we can, pushing the car to its limits with the factory springs. Then we're going to do the same with the Eibachs on to see if I can have the different speed, a maximum speed that the car can do. All right, we are coming up on a roundabout with no cars around. Let's see what the maximum speed the Fiat can put out. Looks like we were having oversteer at about 28 miles an hour.
Thought I saw 31 or 32.
Did you? I had the steering wheel in the way, so you're probably correct.
So I've lowered a handful of cars throughout my life, both my own personal cars as well as some friends' cars. What I can tell you is I quite honestly think that putting lowering springs on a car is probably the most bang for your buck that you can do for a car mod that's affordable. It's a pretty easy do-it-yourself job, and the results are quite substantial, both in the cosmetic department of the car as well as the experience, the driving experience that it provides. Unfortunately, it's a pretty boring mod to get. You know, you get a big exhaust, you get this big shiny chromy piece of metal, or you get a cold air intake and it looks all futuristic, or you get a tune and it's techy. You order springs and it's kind of boring to get them in the mail, but ultimately I think it's kind of a mod that it's definitely the most bang for your buck.
All right, let's get that tape measure out and see how high we're sitting now, then we'll do the same after.
Let's take some quick measurements for fun. I mean, look at this wheel cap back here, guys. This is nuts. It's like straight monster truck. Right now, no weight in the car. We are sitting at 25 3/4 of an inch in the back, 25 3/4 in the back. Up front, guys, we have 24 3/16. We'll call it 24 1/8 for fun. We'll go ahead and start with the backs. The backs are like stupid easy to do. Kind of curious what it looks like with the backs Eibach in and the front still remaining factory, just because the front has a nice look from the factory. So I'm kind of curious if that levels it off. We're not even going to take the tires off in the back. We're going to get our jack tray under here so we can support the weight. We're going to loosen our dampeners or our shock. I don't even know if we're going to have to get our sway bar out of the way or not. We'll find that out in a minute. But we're more or less just going to take the weight off of this, take our shock out and put the new one in. It'll be pretty easy. Now keep in mind, if you have a car that has a bunch of miles on it or has had a rough life on those factory dampeners or factory shocks, know that you're not going to get the same characteristics or the same benefits of just putting a new spring in. So the lowering springs will work really great if you have a newer car with not as many miles, but if you're putting them in an older car, you might want to think about the next kit up that's going to include shocks with the springs.
Of course, the best lift point on the Fiat is the pinch weld.
So if I ever remember, I always like to go and hit all the bolts I'm removing with a little PB blaster just for fun, especially being up in Minnesota. So I'll even go up to the front of the car and see what I can get with that right now. You can see our friends over at Fiat use this sweet like torque style bolt on there. A 14 mil does go on there nice and it holds it really snug with no play. So we are able to get that loose without issue. So what we're doing is we're keeping all the weight on the car, on those shocks, and then we're going to lift it up once this is removed. So the reason why I've decided to keep all the weight down on the car is because I don't have to fight with this bolt. See, check this out. If I would have taken all the weight off the car, there would have been a lot of torque on this bolt, and I would have risked stripping out the threads. So because all that weight is down on the car still, I'm effortlessly taking this bolt out and doing no damage to those threads. Here it comes. Now that we have both of those shocks disconnected, we're going to lift that rear end off the ground. You can see that all the tension is coming off of the springs with every pump of the jack here. So we're just going to keep pumping it up, pumping it up. We do have the front tires chalked for safety, guys. Front wheel drive car, bad things are happening, and we already have room up here. Look at that. So we're pretty much done replacing the rear springs already. And there we go. We maxed out our jack, but we still had effortless room to get the spring out. I do think we got new bump stops. Let's check it out if we did.
There's the factory, and there are the new Eibachs. Check those out. So the Eibachs sit a little bit higher, but they do have more coils, which I can only imagine means that this is going to go ahead and compress more once we get it on there, so there's going to be less tension on the Eibachs. I am curious to see how this is going to look. Check this out. I like that red paint. Matches the car. Eibach only makes one kit for the Fiat 500 Abarth, and that is the Sportline kit, is what we have right now. Up front, we do have bump stops, so we don't have bump stops for the rear, but we have bump stops up front. I went over this a little bit earlier. I told you about the warranty, but check out those stickers. We got some stickers that come with it.
Just taking the rubber housing from the factory one, placing it onto the Eibach spring, and you can see there's just a spot for it to stop, and then it goes around, holds itself in place, sits in there. There's also one on the bottom, guys. So same concept there. There's not really a stopping point.
It's right here.
Oh, it's right here. Bada bang, bada boom. Put that in, lift the little flap, trap door, she's ready to go in. Let's see if it'll go in as easy as the other one came out. I am putting a little bit of tension on it just to get it over the hump. Am I gonna win this battle or not? Yes! Victory! Done. Boom. We'll bring, as we put the weight back onto the tires, we'll obviously see where we need to stop to get this bolt to line up. Let's get the driver's side done. Boom.
I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the easiest rear springs I've ever done in my life.
So like every project you take on, we ran into an issue. We took the driver's side shock out, spring out, and the bump stop fell off with it. The little nipple that goes into the body fell off, so we'll have to order one. There's none available locally. Coming down. There it is. So guys, our pre was 25 3/4. Now it's always fun when you have the e-brake on, because the e-brake holds the suspension in place. So Austin already hopped in and pulled that e-brake. It was fun to watch it squat down. 25 3/4 was our previous. We are at 24 1/4. So we lowered 1.5 inches right off the bat in the rear.
That is right at what Eibach said it would be. It's 1.5 in the back, 1.3 in the front.
So right now we still have the factory springs up front and the Eibachs in the rear. I like how it's almost like a leveling kit that those Eibachs do when the car's sitting like this. It has a nice stance right now. Let's put those fronts in.
Well, they can't make it that easy for us. The wheels are gonna have to come off up front. It is gonna be a 17 for those lugs, more like bolts, so be careful, of course. Once all 4 of them are out, they're just resting on those little nubs, so they will fall off.
All right, let's see what we got up front, guys. So kind of a McPherson looking strut assembly. We have a few lines associated with ABS and brake lines that will just have to pop off of this whole strut assembly. 2 bolts to pop out here. It looks like we have a sway bar disconnect. We'll have to disconnect here, and then we'll have to get up under the hood. So let's get this popped out. So just like that, we had it out. Boy, we had a real heck of a time on the driver's side getting our bottom dampener bolt out. Had to jack it up, had to hammer on it. It did not want to come out. Then we go over to the passenger side. It was 100% effortless, which was nice to see. So guys, on your brake line, there's just a small little clip here that holds that into place. Get that clip out of the way, pull your brake line. You got a sensor cable here, get that out of the way. Your tie or your sway bar right here, that comes off. And then your 2 main bolts. As you can see, it's got full mobility to go wherever you want. I'm gonna lower the car a little bit, get up into the hood, and get this assembly out. I certainly think there's gotta be a way to take the front strut off without removing the whole plastic cowl piece. However, we're not being successful, so we're gonna zip that off. Just got a little plastic clip pin here. The plastic clip that sits over the windshield wiper, just pop that guy off. There's just a single clip holding it in. Pop that off. Pop the nut off that's holding the arm. It helps if you pull the arm up to get it aligned, so that'll come off. That is the only thing holding it on, but you kind of have to play with it to get it lined up to get it off of there. And then we just have a few clips along the back of the plastic here. Obviously, you're dealing with plastic, so take your time, so you're not too aggressive and don't want to break it. Let's just run through this quick. We have the driver's side assembly out. What I can tell you is it is worth the effort to take the plastic cowl and get that out of your way. Just be advised that you still have the windshield washers attached even when you get that off of there. So if you want to pop those hoses off, that's obviously not a big deal. But popping that plastic cowl, you can kind of see where the clips go. And when you do that, it allows you to get straight up and down on that last McPherson strut assembly nut, so you can get an impact on there and you don't have to mess around with having an Allen wrench in a socket or something like that. So getting this out of the way is worth it for sure. It took about 5 minutes. We'll just get the impact on there, and then we're going to come down here and grab this so it doesn't fall. Hit it. Boom, she's out. All right, so here's the sketchy part, the dangerous part, people would say. These stupid little spring compressors. On certain vehicles, I wouldn't even do this. I'd take it to a shop and have them compress it. Because we're dealing with a little Fiat and there's not massive amounts of tension, I'm willing to use these. Some people refer to these as widow makers, just because you put tremendous force on these and it's not like symmetrical necessarily. Bad things can happen in a hurry. Obviously, just make sure you have that spring fully lined up and seated fully, that it's not in there kittywampus. Hopefully yours has some safety pins. You can buy these on Amazon for like 20 bucks, or you can just go to AutoZone and they'll usually rent them for you for free. So the idea is we will tighten this side a little, tighten this side a little, tighten this side, just keep going back and forth until we compress that spring a little bit. Once we don't have any tension on the spring on the top hat, we're going to remove the top bolt, get this spring out, put the new spring in, put it back together, put it in the car. So there we go, top hat's out. This whole spring assembly is out, little dust boot. We'll keep everything in order. We'll get that new bump stop on that came. And then same concept, guys, when you're releasing the spring, obviously just don't completely buck on it. Do a little each side, releasing that tension little by little.
And for the front spring comparison.
All right, so we put our new bump stop on, we put our dust boot on. Now the dust boot actually goes into the spring here, and it should be resting on the spring just like so. And from there, our top hat goes on, and that should fit nice and snug in there. Slide the whole kit and caboodle on, lines up like so. Now what's interesting is on the first one we didn't even have to use, we had to use the spring compressor to get our nut started. It does not look like we're even going to have to compress this spring to get our nut started. Eibach, we're going to throw it in. So it's nice to have a helper, someone to hold it up in place, and the guy up top here is going to hammer down.
What do you think of them?
They're red. There it is, guys. First look at it. All right, so we saw an opportunity here. Austin just put that race chip on the Abarth, whatever it is. What kind of car do you have?
An Abarth 500.
An Abarth 500. We put that race chip in. Check out that video, guys. But he didn't have it all tucked away because he's got another mod on the way that he thought was going to be changing it. So we're going to take this opportunity, having that caul taken apart, to make that race chip more or less undetected and make it a nice clean install. So just check this out, guys. We rerouted the race chip wires. We got a sensor that's down here, and we also have another sensor that's down under the battery tray. This is one of the cables for the race chip. So we just made a notch back in the plastic booting there, and we also made a notch in the plastic booting here. So now our race chip is actually mounted underneath the caul. It's underneath the windshield, nice weather proof spot, and you'd never know looking in the engine bay that it exists. Checking out the front, guys, to see how far we dropped. We had 24 1/8 previously. Right now we're 22 7/8, so we dropped about 1.25 inches up front. On, let's go ahead and test that body roll theory that I had before. What do you think? Me? Yeah. Oh. It's hard to say from the passenger seat. It definitely doesn't feel as sloppy, though, would be the best way to say it.
I think everything I have noticed so far, the car is less sloppy in all ways. It doesn't have as much body roll. You're not being thrown around as much in the seat. I feel like I'm not getting slammed back and forth when shifting gears because the car is more at a steady level. And you can tell that they are stiffer, but also even when I hit bumps, like I'm not being thrown around, I'm just, you know, the car's just bouncing over the bumps. So I actually think it made the ride a lot smoother than it was before.
So that's it, guys. Pretty easy job. The only hiccup we had is the bump stop in the rear end. Had a stubborn bolt there for a minute. Ultimately, if you have all your ducks in a row, you're set up ready to go. I realistically think you can change all 4 corners in the Abarth springs in less than an hour. I would say it is realistic to have all 4 corners changed in less than an hour. That's obviously ideal circumstances. We have a lift in the garage, have all the tools right there, so maybe slot 2-3 hours for it. Eibach, used them numerous times, always happy with the quality, never a complaint, no different here.
Yeah, I love them, guys. I think the car looks great, nice and low. I did not expect the car to be more tame, actually. It's more easy on a daily basis at the moment, based on currently driving it. I'm not jumping around anywhere. It's more smooth of a ride, and I kind of like it. I dig the way it looks. Definitely you're gonna have to watch out for curbs and stuff more. I am a bit lower, there's no doubt about that. But I do think the quality of the ride is overall better. And so far the cornering has impressed me as well.
Definitely fits the car in the small wheelbase, kind of the hot hatch car it is.
Yeah, definitely.
An improvement over factory for sure.
So we have the new springs in, and I'd like to test to see if I can corner better, so let's find out. I mean, the thing grips like no other, there's no doubt about it. But with those springs, now that with that high-speed cornering, that means that there's more weight on the inside wheels since there's less body roll, meaning that technically we should be able to corner faster. So let's go back to that roundabout we were at earlier, which you said you saw, what, 31 miles an hour?
I think I did.
So I'd like to see if we can corner any faster at that same roundabout. Based on what I have so far experienced, I can definitely take corners faster with less tire squeal. So I am curious if I can do that in a consistent circle.
Sitting in the passenger seat, it's definitely a little bit more enjoyable of experience if you watch some of the previous videos. Not a huge fan of the passenger seat of the Abarth 500. Abarth 500.
Yep, Abarth.
Abarth 500.
So I would like to know this. If any of you commenters know anything about switching the driver passenger seat to the passenger seat, I want to know if I can switch the bottom part of the driver's seat to the passenger. That way that the
give it the ability to go up and down.
Yeah, because the passenger has always been very uncomfortable.
I mean, I'd like a little bolstering too, if it's not too much to ask.
For sure.
Just a little bit.
So I want to know if I can find one at a junkyard or something that's still in good condition, obviously, and if I can have my passenger have a more comfortable place of sitting. Well, it looks like we have a couple of cars coming. We'll slow down a bit, and then we can test to see what this thing can do around a roundabout. Do you think it's going to improve the speed at all?
I think there's a possibility it'll improve the speed.
I think there's a possibility too, but I'm not sure it will. Let's find out right now.
Jeez. Aggressive.
What are you seeing? It's grippy. Is it?
Yeah.
I feel like it's grippy.
I feel like we might roll over any second. I don't remember what it was like before. Should we go put the other springs back on?
I think we should.
Okay.
Tell you what, I noticed this right away. With the other springs, I was experiencing understeer, where with these springs, I actually felt the car wanting to grip quite a bit more while trying to do the same speed.
Yeah, so, the tires are definitely working more versus fighting with the suspension.
Exactly. So there is definitely improvement. Whether it's speed or not, I'm not sure, but it definitely gives me a lot more confidence going around corners. But, I mean, it's not just about performance. It's about looks. It's about daily driving. And I really think all of those areas are currently being improved. We'll have to let you know with the future video updating on what we think of these springs. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's video on Performance on Wheels. You got anything to say?
the sunset's quite amazing, so it's kind of taken my my words away for sure.
Absolutely
beautiful night here in Minnesota.
Yeah, definitely beautiful. A night well needed here with the riots and pandemic going on. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Put your hands on the wheel. You're crazy.
Sorry. Hope to see you guys next time. Hit like, hit subscribe. Let us know what videos you want to see in the future.